Hello friends, welcome to FoxuTech. So as we are seeing, there is a multiple topics like Argo CD and Kubernetes. So today we're going to see another important topic or the next continuation of troubleshooting scenarios. Right. So we were seeing last blog about in image pullback error and how to fix that and what are the things it can be reason and how we can identify, right? So like that, there is a next important topic is nothing but like CrashLoopBackOff error. So if you're working on the Kubernetes or if you are trying or if you're anything you are practicing, right? So you may see this error regularly, and this is one of the error we may get fed up because the reason what we have to identify it's very hard as because there is a multiple reason beyond this. As we say image pullback, it may have a very straight answer like it's completely related on the image. But when we speak about this cross loop backup, it's not a simple word term or something we can look for it. So we need to understand the cluster and understand the application, then it will be helpful for us to identify the cause and the issues, right? So we already posted a blog. So if you are interested to read, so you can open a FoxuTech and you can read this blog. I'll be adding this anyway on the description. So here we have explained again the same thing what we're going to discuss, but again, so it will be a little more detailed. So as the video we may skip some topics as we cannot share something. So those will be covered on this blog, right? So as if you've not seen our earlier post, so you can check this image pullback video. So that may give you some idea about how we can troubleshoot. Okay, let's jump into this. So in this video, what we're going to do, so we're going to see about crash loopback error and what is the possible reasons beyond this. Why this happens? There could be a multiple reasons again. So as I said, it's not a very straightforward and very tight we can identify this. Why? Because you may see what are the reasons we are listing and you can imagine how difficult it is or how hard to identify the single error with multiple reasons. So let's start one by one. So first possible issue could be like a insufficient resources. So let's assume you have application like a Java application or any application, and most of the application has a predefined requirements, like it needs certain like at one CPU or it should need a certain memory is 1 GB or 2 GB, like that, right? So there will be always predefined resource requirement. If you are not matching anything, so or you are developing some application and that has again the requirement, again you are not matching that, so obviously your application will be cross looping. So it may say like this is not valid or this value is not sufficient, so anything, right? So that is the one reason it may fail and you may see the cross loopback error. So why we are seeing crash loopback, right? So very important that. So why? Because the Kubernetes, it's most important useful for the Kubernetes. We can even run our application on Docker. But why we need a Kubernetes again? So we need a Kubernetes to make sure if there is in case any basic troubleshooting is needed, like just restarting application will fix the issue or something, right? So those kind of things will be very quicker and easy with the Kubernetes. It's just check if the application is not responding or it's failing, immediately it brings that application up and running, right? And that is a key reason. So that again, that could be another issue. Why? Because the crash loop error, it happens when the pod is keep on retrying to restart, and if that is not coming up, so it will be thrown as a cross loopback error, right? So one reason, as I said, the insufficient error, where there is an insufficient error, obviously the application will stop, but Kubernetes thinks they can you restart and they get some more resources, right? That could be the one reason. Or there is another reason beyond this. So this is like we are defining less memory, so we can understand it. But the next reason could be even your application may be still failing. Why? Because there will be a high utilization of any kind of a memory or any kind of a CPU. So if that is happens, even the pod will be on crash loop backup due to this. It's expecting a more memories. Like if there is any bug, so you may see Java applications. I seen mostly on Java application. So it's just fails or it start consumes lot of memories. So with that, what happens? There will be a huge number of memories, even though you may define it's supposed to use only 60 GB, let's say, but it still try to consume more than 60 GB, whatever it's defined, and there will be some leaks. So in that time, what happens? Your application will be out of reach. It may not fail, but it will be like a completely unresponsive. So those kind of things happen. So you have to be very vigilant on this part, and you have to keep check what is the reason and how your application is performing and track our resources. As we are saying on all the videos, so you have to keep track your resources to understand what is happening on your application, right? So as I said, the first one is insufficient. So let's move on to the next. So next is locked file or database or any kind of a port. So when this happens, locked file or database or port. So let's see one by one locked files. So let's say like you are running some read-only memory file, or there is some like let's say a Postgres, right? Any kind of a database you are running, and the database consuming the file, the Postgres config file, or any kind of a file, right? So when there is another resource trying to access, it says the file is locked and you can't access it because already the file is in use. Or let's assume the next thing is like upgrade, right? Or you are doing some kind of patching or something. So when the earlier request is still processing, so this new, where there is a new pod comes and it's trying to read, it fails with the crash loop backup because the file is already consuming by another resource. So that time you may see this kind of error. So this could be the another reason the crash loop backup happens. Next is the database. Database is like a, so again there will be a certain connections reserved for the database and certain application or endpoints. So in the time also you may see something like the database connection is locked and the database cannot provide any further connections, right? So you may experience when you are working as a large organization level like a database management. So this could be another reason that your application may not get enough response or the connections. So in that time, so you may get again connection loopback error. So next is the port. So this is strange part, but it's sometimes it happens when there is non-best practices followed. Let's say. So let's say like pods are mainly designed only for running a single container, right? That's what we see. But when we are migrating any kind of monolithic applications or from the on-premises to cloud or any kind of a microservices, so what we have to do, sometimes we can't immediately split that application into single container, multiple pods because there will be some internal reasons. So I don't want to get deep into that, but so that could be the reason. So what you have to run, single pod, you have to run a multiple containers, right? So that is not best practice, but still we don't have any option. We have to move to the microservice architecture, right? So on the time, let's say like you are running a 2 containers inside single pod and both is supposed to use the port called 8080. What happens? The first pod comes, it's up and running, but the second pod when it's coming, obviously it fails because the port 8080 is already it's consumed by another pod, sorry, another container, right? There will be a conflict. So those cases also another reason your crash loop backup will happen. The port is in use or port unable to access, or even there is some issues, right? So this could be another reason it happens. Third thing, so no proper reference or the configuration. So what is mean here? So no proper reference. So reference is nothing but, let's say your config file is present run/etc and postgres.conf. Let's say one of the example, right? But what you given, instead of /etc, you given /opt reference /opt postgres.conf, right? So what happens? Obviously, whenever your application try to access the configuration, it's go and check /opt folder, and if there is no file, obviously it says configuration is not found. So again, the Kubernetes says, hey, go on retry, and it's retries, and this will be endless loop. 5 minutes it tries, and if there is no luck, it goes for the crash loop error. Right. So this could be another reason it's failed. Configuration. See, sometimes the configuration should be so accurate, because when you are, let's assume you are copying a configuration from Windows to Linux, right? It's upon some random letter. So that kind of issues may happen, or something like we may copy a wrong file. Instead of ABC file, we may copy XY as a ABC. So that could be a human errors again, right? So those kind of errors may happen. So on that time, what happens? Your application expects ABC as a line, but you are presented with XYZ. So your application says, hey, this is not my configuration. I'm looking for this, it's not found in your configuration, right? So those kind of issues will happen. So on the time, what happens? The configuration file may be not present on the particular path, or that's not properly placed, right? It's not properly configured. So same like a config loading. So your configuration is not correct, or your setup, let's say like a setups, in the sense, again, setups is additionally like your application is expecting certain values or certain things whenever it's needed. So let's say Nginx expects there is a port 8080, or the Nginx config should be there, or there is something randomly, right? So there is multiple things which happens for different applications. So that kind of error, if you set and your configuration is not proper, obviously this will be expected that configuration and it's not present. So the pod will say, hey, this is not this is not I expected. Please correct it, right? It's keep on try, and Kubernetes say go on restart, right? It will be a repeated task, and your application will be on crash loop back error. Third reason is, so this is out of our control. So far, whatever we've seen, this could be on our control. So because we know that, and we should be doing this always correct. So there will be out of box issues, connection issues. So connection issues, something like let's say you are running something called external database, right? So when you are running external database, and you should reach that, you should have a connection to reach that particular destination. And if there is no proper destination, there is no connection to that particular destination, so what happens? You will get a failure like there is no connection to the database. So obviously your container, your application will be down, and your pod will think, hey, I need to restart and see, get the connection. It restarts and it fails, right? So that also happens. You have to, that is again out of our control. That's mostly on networking side, but this could be another reason, cross loop error. So next is like a downstream error. One more thing in the connection issues, let's say like you have applications on the cloud, as we are mostly looking for the cloud, and where you are deploying your application, or where you are writing this application, there is no proper connection, or there is no permissions are not present, right? So in the time also, what happens? Your connection will be failed, and that time the error will be different. Maybe it says authentication error. It's unable to read the destination resource, like that. But again, it's related to connection, and you have to fix based on the error. Downstream services. So downstream services, nothing but again, you have a dependency services. Let's assume you have a application. It has a 5 to 6 dependency services. Or let's say like another example we can take Artifactory, right? So let's take one of the Artifactory is Docker, binary store. So binary registry, and where you can store our binaries and Docker, images, Helm chart, everything. So that has a dependency of database, and another one is Nginx or any kind of a web server. So without that, obviously, if you are bundled with the Kubernetes, and it may has a dependency, and it will fail like, hey, my Postgres is not coming up, or the Nginx is not up, so I don't come up, right? It may expect that to service, and that is not responding properly, or those may be up and running in the different network and that is not responding to the particular application. So on the time also you will say like a downstream services are failing. Or the cross loop backup, again it says that this application is not found, connection is not stable, or connection not found, A, B, C, right? There will be a related services. You should understand or you should read the error properly and you should get it fixed. So next is Liveness prop. So Liveness prop is nothing but like we may see in this error. So we may discuss this on the when we discuss about the props. So Liveness props error when it occurs. So you have configured your Liveness props to monitor the application, right? So let's say like you have a application running and that's supposed to monitor this application status on port 50000, right? So sorry, 5000, let's say 5000, and there will be endpoint called health. Okay, so this should be monitored. Liveness prop supposed to do that, but as we may did the mistake or we made it, there will be a different understanding. Instead of 5000, we may put something like a 500 or 5000 plus 50,000 or any kind of a different fight. Again, typo, or there will be a understanding of instead of 5000, we may heard like there is a port called 1000 should be monitored, but there won't be any response from that particular port as it's not exposed to /health endpoint. So what happens? Obviously, your application says, hey, there is no response, so I'm restarting my application as there is no the Liveness prop is failed. Again, it skip try, again it skip fails because the definition is not proper. Same for the endpoints. You define the port correctly and endpoints may be different. So this time maybe, let's say, assume like you have configured custom props for external applications, like a vendor-based application. And this particular version, they released the endpoint like a health for monitoring health check. But unexpectedly, the next version, they added a else, because they may have a multiple endpoints or multiple service monitoring. So they may put else, right? Still you are monitoring else, HELTH, but they changed HELTZ, right? So you're supposed to monitor that else, right? But if you are still going with health and you are upgraded your application, it fails again due to there is no proper endpoint defined, right? So this kind of the possibilities you may see. And again, there is a port already in use. We may see in the second point, but this case is different. So first one we seen within container, how it's if there is a 2 port is used. So that time we may seen that. But let's assume wherever the node you are using, you are running on the some customized VM or there is some VM, some managed VM. So in that you are running your Kubernetes application and the pod is exposed already. So the port is exposed to some other internal application what they are running, and in that time what happens? So you may get error called. You may not able to get that error, but it says like somewhere there is a port in use. So these all the reasons could happen. So that's what we should have a proper understanding on the application to troubleshoot any such issues, and we should have a proper vigilance on the each and every section, and we should have a proper validation, and then we should start troubleshooting, right? So let's check, and there will be a little more examples, but this is mostly covered. Mostly cover the reasons, or there will be some other reasons. Again, it will be dependent to your application environment, but mostly these are the possible reasons. Okay, so you may ask, okay, we know now, so these are the errors, and how we can diagnose this? We should diagnose this one by one, or we should have some certain options we have to take a look. So there will be a different errors or different steps we have to follow. So first thing, when you are checking a log or the describe command, or you are checking an event, or in describe there is a event, right? So when you checking those commands, and if you note anything called backup restarting failed container, this could be one of the reason that pod is already consuming n number of resources, or it's not getting enough resources. That could be the one reason. And other reason could be there is some configuration error, right? So you may have seen this error when you are working on this some basic check or basic practice, and this could be the one of the reasons. You can take a look on that. There is some misconfiguration may happen. So next, how to diagnose. So again, whenever there is something is happening, the first two steps to view in the Kubernetes, check the describe command and see you can see any reasons, and I'll show you where you can check the reasons. And the second thing, like check the event section in the kubectl command. So if you are using any cloud like AKS and all, it won't show the events on the kubectl command. You have to take a look on kubectl get events. If you are using any particular namespace, you have to go and check on the particular namespace. Third thing, logs, right? Anything is a log. It's not a last resort, but sometimes you may not get you may get the exact issues even in the event section in Kubernetes. But some case you have to go and check the deep look when there is a log of application is failing. So until your application is not writing any logs, we don't get any logs. So only 2 points we have to check is describe and the events. Okay, so that's one place. And the third thing is like a deployment log. So one thing, pod logs, you can see and understand it. If you are not understanding anything, go and check the deployment logs. Okay, and fourth point, resource limit. Check your configuration, like pod manifest or the namespace, right? So check is there any limitation is set for the resources, and if that is consuming less, so are defined for something very limited, so then that could be another reason you have to fix that. Okay, in case this is related to resource, if something is configuration issues, then that will be you have to rely on the other solution. Next, let's assume still you are not able to identify anything. You have checked the logs and you have checked the events, you have described it, and you don't have any resource limitation, and still my application is not up. That could be another reason, like your image itself, there is possible of corrupted, or that is not defined properly, or we are not deployed properly. How we can identify that? So do one thing. So you can just run your image as a container, Docker container. So instead of running on the Kubernetes, it's too complex, or we don't know where it goes and where it fails. So what is the best way to troubleshoot? One more issue. Whatever the image you have, just run it in the Docker first and see is it responding properly. If it's responding properly on Docker and Kubernetes failing, then it will be a different case. But mostly how we can do, right? So you can identify what is the details of what is the endpoint it's supposed to monitor and what is the entry point it's supposed to use, etc., etc. So let's assume like you have a endpoint ABC, but unexpectedly that you are not able to do anything on this particular part or the container, and it's not serving that particular endpoint entry point. So what you can do on the time? So you can just run the image as a container in with the Docker, and you can identify the particular endpoint and go to the kubectl, the pod manifest, right? There you may pass the arguments, or if you don't have argument, define the argument, says you use something called like a dev and null, right? So dev null will be overcome the whatever the endpoints you are using already, and that will be changed to dev null, and it will allow you to execute log into the particular pod. So with that, what you can do, so you can use a kubectl easy execute and log in with a bash, and after that you can see what is happening. So you can run some random commands like what is happening, why there is a error. If you have internal to the pod as any kind of a log, you can verify that, and you can just pull the, let's assume the application supposed to serve ABC as an endpoint or localhost port 8080. You can run the same command within the cluster or use the curl command to see the response. Is it responding or not? If you say that it's not responding, then it's again the application has some issues. We have to fix based on that. Or there will be some dependency packages may be missing. So it's every application needs some certain dependencies, and that is not present. So in that case also, it may not report outside, but it's in the kubectxeasy. So you can see and you can fix that. And application configuration, we can take a look again. So there is something like a, let's say like you are just modifying one of the configuration, there will be another related configuration, right? So those kind of things, something you are not copying, but let's assume that already existing file is proper or not. Some case there maybe we did some changes and when we build the image, and that is we may forget when we are running as a kubectl, right, in the Kubernetes. So that also you can track and you can verify it once, and you can fix that issue. Okay, so this all like it's on our hand and we can do everything. So what if it's something is coming from externally, right? So one is something external reasons are external service are not found. So when this is happened, so as I said, it may happen when there is application is not able to reach, right? So this could happen due to your kubedns. So kubedns is one of the component in Kubernetes, and that is responsible for resolving any kind of domains or connections in the remote places. Let's assume you have to connect your application to abc.com, right? So what happens? So you are trying to reach abc.com and kubedns not resolving abc.com to exact IP. Instead of that, it's resolving to some random false IP. So on the time, what happens? So it's failed. So on the time it's failed with the destination is not reachable or destination is not resolvable, they're unable to resolve those kind of errors. So when you see that, that is mainly happening from the DNS server, kubectls, and you have to check that and you have to fix it based on the DNS issues. Or your organization may have a restriction to block any kind of external domains. You have to reach, unfortunately, you have to reach some domains in your out of your organization, and unfortunately that is not able to reach and your DNS is failed, right? So those kind of issues will be there even kubectls side or DNS related. So you have to take a look on that. Other reasons, so again, as we've seen that it's a port conflict. So port may be conflicted with other services. How you can check this, right? You can run a command called the netstat if you're using a Linux, netstat -tulpn. So this command will give you the TCP and UDP ports, whatever is consumed on this particular instance. I can show you that when we are doing a demo. And with that, what you can do, so you can see, okay, this port supposed to be used by this pod, but this container, but unfortunately, there is another service running on this VM. So one thing what you can do, the existing service you can check is it mandatorily it should be running there. If the VM is not meant to run that, just kill it out and you can just restart your pod and it should come up, right? Or if you say like that application, that node is very critical and this pod is placed wrongly into this node, so you can move out of that node and you can use a different node, right? So these are the reasons and these are the possible pods could be happen, and this is how you can troubleshoot. So let's see some of the demos to understand how we can fix that, or what is a possible reason it could happen, right? So we have prepared a couple of demos for you guys. So in this demo, what we're gonna fail some certain things by default, and we're gonna see what is happening, and also we will give you the overall solution, how you can fix that. So I have logged into my server. So this is my server and I have two scenarios. This is the scenario 1, sorry. So this is my scenario. So one is like so I have a Mongo stateful set as a pod. So this is my pod. So this stateful set, what it does, it launches the Mongo application. and this is the version I'm using. These are all the commands it's supposed to be run, right? So I'm saving this file, and let me create a namespace to run this. kubectl create namespace. Let me name it as a crash. Okay, so I'm just going to name it as a crash, and crash is created. So next I'm gonna do apply -f. So this is a file I'm gonna apply now, and so this is the namespace, right? So crash is our namespace. So when I run this, then this is created. So let's get the pod details. Get pod. Okay, so you can see it's already reached crash loop backup. Why? Because let's see that. So how you can see, as I said already, first thing you have to check kubectl describe pod and the pod name -n crash. If you are using a different namespace, you have to define it. If you are not using any kind of a namespace and you are deploying everything on the default, please just avoid this -n crash. Okay. So this is the describe, and where you have to read, how to read this, right? So from starting, this all like most of the details, and we may not get much of the thing, or we may not understand. So next, we have to come to the state. So under the container, you can check the state and reasons, right? These two maybe give some good detail, right? And what is saying, so the state is in terminated, and reason is error, and exit code is 2. So if you are familiar with the Linux, so there is a multiple error codes are there: 0 for success, 1 for failure, 2 for warning, 127 for the file system is not found, 128 there is the endpoint is not defined properly, and there is a random number. Okay, you can take a look on that. So as per that, we are seeing the exit code is 2, but the exit code supposed to be 0 for any successful application. Okay, so we understand this, but there is no reason, right? So I don't know what is happening now. So I can't troubleshoot anything with just these 3 words. Okay, let me dig into the next. And if you are using a Kubernetes cluster by default or OpenShift, you may see events will be added here by default. As I'm using a AKS, it's not part of here. For that, what I'm doing, I'm going to check that separately. So the separate command is kubectl get events, and again particular namespace. So my case again. So what is happening here? This is my pod is scheduled. Okay, this is the image, and this is created, backlog failed. Okay, so again, so you can see there is something is wrong, right? So we can see backup restarting. As I said, there is some configuration or definition is not proper. That could be the reason. But again, what kind of a definition? So, right? So as I said, the error code is 2. So when you say the error code is 2, nothing but is a warning. Even warning is not so enough, because something is not proper. Okay, so far we couldn't get any details, right? So the last result will be logs, right? Again, you may not get that most of the time, but this application should give the best logs. So let's check kubectl logs, and any pod name. If you have multiple pod, pick one of the pod and check on the crash the particular namespace. So when you do so, right, so you can see that is telling. So the error parsing a command line unrecognized, there is a set set in the Mango command. So Mango is a command, but that is not being meant to, but it's supposed to be like this. It's trying to run the Mongo with this command. So this is telling file. Where we define that? It's defined on the stateful file. So you can see it here. So we are using a Mango and replace it and RS1. But it's not our expectation. So if you're running a Mango pod, right? So what you have to give the command should be D, Mango D, and you have to run. So that is the exact one, but we made a typo. We didn't put hyphen the Mango D, right? Mango D is a service. So what I'm going to do, so let me apply this change, and let's see that it's going to take So it's configured and I'm gonna see the pod. So still it's not taken, it's still restarting. So let's do one thing, let's delete and create this, whether it's applying, it's not taking this just argument as we seen in the props. So if you are defining any customized details, even if you are reapplying, it won't take until you are delete and create again. Why? Because it's user defined details, it's not kept mean to understand by the Kubernetes. That's only for our purposefully changes. Kubernetes doesn't understand that. So I'm making a change, apply now. Let's check the pod details. You can see already the pod is started, and let's wait for the another one to come up. Okay, so we given a replica set is 3. Is it correct? Let's confirm it. Yes, we are supposed to have a 3 replicas, and we are going to get that shortly, or we may got. See, we have got. So now when you check kubectl log and -n crash, okay, the application is started and MongoDB is a command, everything is perfect, right? So this is the one scenario, always vigilant on the commands, whatever we are giving, avoid any kind of a typo or understand what you have to do. So MongoDB may not be most of the people aware, so how to check the command. So the command argument, we may say, hey, just run a Mongo, that should work, but the case is not like that. MongoDB should be run, right? So this is one scenario, so this may be help you to understand, I believe. So let me take you the next scenario now. So the next scenario is we have some sample image. Okay, so the image will what it does. So the image, what it does, right? So this image will be just check the date and it will be looped onto that date. It will just keep check the date and it respond you the details. Okay. So, but what we are doing, so it has to check the date, but purposefully it has to be failing the node. So when there is a failure happen, but the particular pod is meant to be collect the data regularly, but what we are doing in between, we are failing it. Okay. So how it's defined? So let me show you that even. So scenario 1, test data.sh. So this is what we are doing. So we are just failing the details and it says hello, and while true, it has to be keep on check the dates, right? But unfortunately, that is, we are failing purposefully here, and we're gonna see how we can make successfully also later. So this is the pod I'm gonna apply. So I'm going to apply to the same namespace. So apply and example -n crash. Oh, sorry. So crash -f. Okay, now the pod is created. So now we have to check the pod details. Get pod -n. I'm using PO as a shortcut, guys. If you're good with the pods or pod, please feel free to use that. And that's for my reference. I'm using. Oh, sorry, again was a typo. Right. So you can see it's already running the container is an error. Already it's restarted twice, but it's supposed to not, but it's doing it. So why it's happening? Let's again start troubleshooting. So describe is the first command to start. PO and date is my pod and crash is my namespace. So here the reason. So here we know the argument we are passing here, and state is waiting and run container is error terminated. Message is failed to create the container task, failed to create a sim, OCI runtime is failed because the starting process cost executed this script. It's not found. No such a file or directory unknown, right? So either this file is not present there or there is some typo we made it. So this kind of image, okay, this is kind of a image error, right? So how we can fix that image error? So what I'm gonna do again, so I'm gonna see that, sorry. So test is my folder and this is my Docker file. And in the Docker file, I have made an entry point. I'm copying a date.sh, but here unfortunately I given a date loop. So I'm fixing this. How I'm doing a build -t motoskia / date is my image and I'm pushing it, right? So push motoskia / date. And this is done. Right. Okay, let me do this. I'm gonna tag that image as a different name. I'll be doing this like this. Let me put a different name as it's going to set again. So I'm going at date motoskia / date 2. Okay, so now I need to push this image to my repository. All right, this image is pushed now. So let's do this. Go back to our scenarios and examples. And here I'm going to change my image name as 2. And I'm saving this. kubectl apply -f example -n crash. It's configured. So now let's take a look on the pod. kubectl get pod -n crash. Okay, so you can see it's on the crash loop error already 6 times and it's been still old one, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete this pod. -n crash. So let's reapply now. kubectl get pod -n crash. Okay, already it's failing. Again, I'm gonna say kubectl describe pod name -n crash. Okay, so now it's telling permission denied because it's not properly configured and OCA runtime, and it's happening with a different case and it's executing this also. Right? How we can overcome this? One thing we can just remove that whatever the things whatever we configured and fixing one by one like this permission and like this you can troubleshoot the things and you can fix it. Okay, or you can run this pod as a this image as a container and you can fix this, right? So this is another scenarios you have to fix one by one. So let's jump into that another example. So next is I'm gonna I have a reference for the one of the application deployment. So this will have a 3 scenarios. One will be like a default resources which contained by the application. Second thing is already defined with, I'm going to define with a very less numbers or very less resource values, and we're gonna see how it's failing. And third one is I'm purposefully giving some wrong database server name and I'm gonna fail that application intentionally. And all 3 scenario will be failing state. Why? Because we're gonna see one by one, right? So first scenario is we are running this command. We have run already this command. So I have created a 3 namespaces, kubectl get namespaces. You can see there is a 3 namespaces are there. One is Argo CD, one is Argo CD DB, and one is Argo CD. Intentionally, we are failing it. So what it does one by one. So what we'll check, right? So for that, I'm gonna say kubectl get pod -n Artifactory is the first namespace we're gonna take a look. And in this, we are seeing there is application is already deployed. I have deployed using this command. Okay, this command, what it's doing, so you can see, okay, this is not the command I used. The command is -n Argo CD is the namespace name, and this is the command I have used. What it's doing, this is the image it's pulling with this resource defined. Artifactory resource request CPU can be 500 MB and the limit should be 2 GB. And requested memory can be 1 GB and maximum limit should be 4 GB. Same for the Java Max, and it has a basic values of 4 GB. So by default, Artifactory, if you want to run at least with some selected repositories, I may recommend personally 4 CPUs are best. 4 GB of memory should be sufficient for basic setup. If you want to have a high number, it's need a heavy load. But mostly Artifactory is a very great tool, and it sustains with even 4 or 8 CPUs, 8 memory, and that would be enough. As we have set the maximum limit is 4, so we have to keep it within that, and minimum should be 1. Right. So same for the CPU, same for the memories for Nginx. Nginx will be a separate for container running. So you may see this here, right? Nginx, Postgres will be separate again. So Artifactory is the main application. So both are failing here. So we don't know the reason. So let's check onto that. kubectl describe pod. So let me take a look first. Artifactory and -n. Again, my namespace is Artifactory, right? So you can see it here. This application is defined, and there is no events again here as I'm using cloud. And do we have any reasons here? Reasons are not proper because it's telling running and it started. But very interestingly, there is a exit code 143, and there is a last state is terminated, and reason is error. Again, we are clueless what is happening here, right? So, okay. So next thing what we can do. So next possible check kubectl get events -n Artifactory, right? So when you do so again you will see this possible options. And do we have any reasons identified? Load balancer, read write, and error reader doesn't match values, and network NRP, that is the reason here. And we don't have anything more specific. This is on the Nginx, so we know we are not troubleshooting Nginx. So we are putting a resource for pod. I'm gonna say so grab only the pod related to an Artifactory, and there is anything filed or again we are clueless here. We are unsuccessful on this, but we have a last command to check kubectl logs. The pod name is Artifactory 0 and namespace is Artifactory. Okay. We have a logs, interesting logs are coming up one by one. So this application is keep on trying to come up. Okay, let it load little more, and let's try to read this log. Okay, so I'm stopping here because I think I have got what I want. So what is happening here? You can see we didn't define any kind of a password in this command, right? So we don't define anything. So what happens? So obviously it's expected the password, but we didn't define it. So due to that, what is happening here? All right. So you can see that error here. So it says You can read it here, right? So name class JDPL invocation in this method failed because could not initialize the database as there is no password is defined for this user, right? So this is one reason we may forget to give the password, or the password may be correct. So as we purposefully skipped that, so we don't have any options to see that. Okay, so how we can fix it? So you can just define a password with the command line argument helm takes some kind of a password. So let's say like you are taking Artifactory, say you can add either you can run the command again with the set values, and something like if you're using a Postgres or something, or MySQL, let's say like a Postgres password, something, right? You can put a values and what is the value and what is the name you have to give. You can just keep like this. You can append along with like this the password, and you can define it. Or if you are using a value.yaml file, you can define in the value.yaml file and you can call it, right? Anyway, it's fine. So if you are using a custom configuration map, you can use that. However, it's preferable to you. You have to set like that and you have to fix it. Okay. So this scenario, we have reached the application and this application is not able to start. Okay, so that is one scenario. So what we're going to do, so we're going to see the another scenario where we have intentionally failed. So for that, I'm going to get so you can see the previous one, it was not in the cross loop backup, but even the application is not up and running, right? So that is one of the hidden reason your application is not healthy. And the second thing is like this is running already in the cross loop back error. So let's see that how the command has been run. This is supposed to be a command, but what we did, this is a command we used. You can see the namespace what I used. So we have used failed, right? So in this failed, how I ran that. So this is the command I ran. You can see the resource numbers. When you see that, you may understand this is very, very less I have given. Where supposed to be there is a 4 GB of RAM memory, but I have given 0.2 GB only. So like that, I have defined very cheap resources for the Artifactory container or the pod. And when it's trying to deploy it, obviously it says the values are not even suits for the heap memory size, right? So let's check the logs or thing. So again, I will follow the process. kubectl describe pod name -n on the namespace. So as per the name process, we are checking the values and we are seeing the reason. It's crash loop backup and reason is completed, but unfortunately there is no proper reasons has been given here, right? So with that, we can't troubleshoot anything. So we have to move on to the next identification of value. So which is nothing but kubectl get events. In the event section, you can see this error or something. Is there anything we are populating? So for nothing. So it's trying to do all the operations and database is up and Artifactory is trying to climb, and there is still it's not consumed any kind of a volumes. Why? Because this is for the database and records Artifactory pulled created. So you can see this is backup restarting failed container. As I told earlier, one of the key reason is again the resource or there is a configuration. So in this case, obviously we know about it. This is failing due to resources, right? It's intentionally we have made it fail, right? So how to check next? So next value should be kubectl log Artifactory -0 -n Artifactory -fail, right? So this is our namespace and this is the value, and you can read it here. Invalid initial heap size, right? Minimum is 0.1 is never taken by the Artifactory, or if you have own application, even that is failing like this, that means your application is expecting more minimum memory to start any kind of application. So you have to correct that value and you have to redeploy it. So we already know we are not going to do that because we already know the application process to that complete processing stage with this command. So we know this is not going to be. So we know the solution already. We have to increase the heap size and we have to give the best resources always wherever needed. Right. So third scenario again, so we are deployed using this command. So in this, what we did, so we have taken a application and we are trying to install it, and we have shown like this is not, there is no proper resource available in this point, but even though we have defined it, and this will fail here because this command or this particular resource won't be there, right? So this values never bother because again this could be a different reason. And this is not the command I have used. I have used different command with the proper values, and I have appended just this 4 lines, right? So some user, some password, and this IP is obviously there is no database running. I will show you that. And as I said, the port use, right? So this is a command you can use, -tulpn. With this, you can understand is the port is already consumed. Let's say like you want to run a port called 33306 for MySQL port, right? So do we have 33306? We don't have. Let's even grab and check it. 3306. No. So we are good now, right? So in case you are seeing whenever you are running this and you see there is already 3306 consumed by existing MySQL, or there is already some other service consuming, either you have to rethink to move to the different server or you have to kill that existing running service, right? So we know that, and we are already set all this for now. And let's check again the kubectl get parts -n. So Artifactory -db. So already we are not running a database because we said it's an external database, right? So we have intentionally said Postgres is enabled. No, it's not enabled, it's false. You have to take a look on outside. So when we say that, so it's trying to log into this and it says kubectl. I'm gonna run it logs directly rather than spending a time on checking the things. There won't be anything. So as we know, this will be only on the DB section, sorry, log section. So what it's telling, it's trying to consuming this PostScript command, but there is no such file or the directory. So we don't have any such a files in the directory. So it's failing intentionally here, right? So this is how we have manually failed this complete setup. And with this, you have to do one more thing. You have to fix this command and you have to run this application. And again, it will fail again worst because there is no database found. So what you have to do, you have to give the correct database detail. With that, if you run the application, it will be up and running. So if any kind of application, there will be a basic schema has to be created. Follow the process and make your database available. Then you have to attach to the any kind of application. Otherwise, again, you may just created the fresh database. And if you are running here, what your application will say is, let's assume the Artifactory, right? It expects the Artifactory as a database name and it should be have a username and password. That doesn't matter, but the database name should be Artifactory. If you are changing the database as Artifactory, the database name from different as Artifactory, you have to define it again, the database name here, and you have to give all the possible details. Okay, so always check all these possibilities, and we have covered most of the scenarios, whatever we shown in the presentation. Right, so we have seen insufficient resource. The file lock or database we couldn't see, but we have seen the related things. And no proper configuration. Again, the proper configuration is heap memory is one of the examples if you are not configured properly. And config is not loading. So password we didn't define because of the setup it failed. Connection issue we didn't face, or we can't bring that connection issues. Why? Because there will be we can't manually, we can't do that, but even though we have tried this, so file is not there or the file, right? So if database is reached and database also we may fail, right? So that is another reason. Downstream services, yes, you can see the downstream services here, which is nothing but, see this artifact, Nginx also it's running here, but it keep on restarting. Let's check once this log also. And this is the detail, and there is no log. Then it should be on the get events. So I'm gonna grab only this Nginx. Okay, so we can see it here, and it's ensuring the load balancer no patching fault found. So it's telling Artifactory is still not up. How I can run that, right? There is a validation they said. So there is no pod is downstream service is not up and running, or upstream service we called in the Artifactory that is not running. So Nginx also fails as there is nothing to serve the traffic, right? So downstream also we have seen Liveness prob we have seen already, or we can just enable some kind of a port connection and see that that is working. Port already in use, that's not the case again our case, but we have shown what is the command you can use to check is it already running consumed or not, right? So these are the things like this. You may face you may also face different issues. Please take a look on the logs. Mostly you may get, if you know the application logs, how to read it, and events will be another resort, so you can understand basic details and you have to dig onto that one by one. And third thing is describe. So again, the cube describe and the events can be combined together and it may show you the result. You don't need to check events separately. But as I'm using a AKS instance, sorry, Azure Kubernetes. So in this, there is no option to combine it, so it won't be show like that, right? So that is how we are showing like this, and this is our example, guys. So hope this video is useful and it may help you to troubleshoot the issues for your future enrollments. So keep try and keep follow us, and let us know if you are looking for any such interesting topics so we can try to prepare, and we'll see that. Keep learning, guys. Have a great day. Bye bye. Take care.